Thank you so much, Jeremy. I think it's a long day today, and I will try to be as quick as I can. So actually, the project is an experimental category. It's about research, and this research, ultimately, it's about really an urban question. It's about the boundaries that we always draw as an architect, and I was really trying to understand these boundaries that we do, especially in the urban design, and to understand the representation of whom we decide to make them belong or not to belong. So actually, it's not about criticizing a certain area or a place, but this is what happened that I'm practicing in the Gulf almost since 20 years, and I'm using this from the eye of a normal human being as an observer, not only as an architect. So actually, the Gulf or the story of any main construction sites that happening in the boom time, usually it's written by many hands. Only few hands it's appear on the skyline, but the real hands that it's built the city, I think it's always a way of the, I would say, the image of this city. So the story of the Gulf, actually, it's about the rapid growth that happened almost in last 20 years, that it need this kind of construction boom, and there is no harm, as I always saying, to densify our cities or build on a speed, because there is a need for this. And this is how the modern cities, it's became like a vehicle for absorbing a lot of people to come to live in a better life. But my always question, what about the quality of life of the people who build these cities? So the mental image about a place like the Gulf, especially Dubai, it's about the perception about the lifestyle, it's luxurious lifestyle. And Dubai was named as the capital of the crane, like the most population of the cranes in the world, it was in Dubai in the boom time. However, there is another way to see the city, which is the true people who built these cities, which is they came from different places, as I will mention through our mapping, the journey for these migrants and the workers. So actually, the city could be seen as this. This is the skyline of the beautiful city of Dubai, but there is another city, and actually there is a life in between, which is the other city life, which is it's shaping the life of the human being that for those laborers that came from different places and working the construction. So mapping this through the numbers to understand more about this movement of migration, the people came from where and how they shape the city, and how them life in a bit of contradiction between what they do or they built and what they already experience in them daily life. So actually, we'll be surprised that 70% of some of the Gulf countries, it's shaped by migrants. They live there from the total percentage of the people in the city. And this is just not only in one city, but I think this is the majority that's happening on the Gulf cities. So to the limit that in UAE, 88% of the population is by migrants. So this is a very huge percentage of the people who live. But the issue is those people considered really the city as them home or not. This is, I think, the question of the research that we are doing. Rimkol has said in the Almanach, the true Dubai, it's written with the labor language, not in Arabic, because those people don't speak Arabic. Actually, they came from different backgrounds and they have their own language. But I mean, here he meant here the metaphorical language, not the physical language. So we mapped really where those camps, the places that the laborers are living, and also how they create this kind of invisible foundation. They came from different places with them traditions, with them culture, and in my opinion, they give depth to any city they live in. And they work in many, different jobs. Started majority, like almost 4 million, it's working as a builders, and 1.5 million working for service, and I think 1 million as Uber drivers and this kind of stuff. Another shape of the city that the architects in the Middle East, they all been celebrated like WAF. Like they always work in comfort and kind of recognition, but at the same time, the workers in action work in extreme hot and humid conditions. And this is the kind of the dichotomy between the two lives of we as an architects and for the builders or the workers on the site. However, this is, I think, really important to see those people. I got this poem from a Lebanese filmmaker, which is he's documenting the life of the laborers. It's very beautifully written here. He said, "The moon cuts day shift to night shift, an important line when sleep has price. Public space, workspace, park space, and bed space, Satwa's unique commerce." Satwa is one of the areas in Dubai. So actually, we all sleep very comfortably in our bed, I think, but those kind of laborers, they have a very expensive price to sleep. However, they still look to what they build in a sense of pride and sense of dignity, because they feel that they are already part of the reshaping the city. And they have this kind of festive culture, and they have their own communities, like, here, that you can have a haircut by 5 dirham. It's very, very cheap. However, that you can take it inside the city by 150 or something. So this is the home, back home, like in Kerala or the other places in India or in Bangladesh, and this is the workplace. So there is two different images between where they live and where they work. This is the city from above. It's a model for prosperity and very successful model, but also this is the other city of the laborers. And this is the visible landscape that it's always been on the media and everyone see it. And also this is the invisible landscape, which is about the unseen life of the city. Is this only about the labor camp? I think it's larger issues. It's about the segregated urbanism. Even if you put those people in the best homes that you can build with this kind of monofunctional urbanism, still, because we design or build some communities for only one function, which is, I think it's create a lot of segregation between the people and the community. So one of the case studies, we really started to take an actual site. And usually we have this kind of duality. You can see this, the green landscape with the golf just on the other way of the street, which is the landscape of privilege. On the other area of the street, you have this kind of gray building, which is landscape of resilience, as I'm saying. So we mapped actually the experience. This is one of the areas in Dubai, it's called Al Qaws. This is the camp situation about what the built environment, the figure ground, and also the open spaces. And this is the kind of the prototype of the labor camps. Either it's come in a new shape or a very linear one. And we started to understand the sizes, what kind of amenities, what kind of facilities that already existed there. And this is the shape of life that when the construction camps being built, and it works actually as a machine of collective living. It's just a machine, has no soul. It's like putting the people in a very glorified prison. But because they have this sense of dignity, a sense of hope, they started really to plant them homes by whatever available materials that they have. So this is very true photos. I took it by myself during my walk, just to document this journey of really, which is I call landscape of resilience. We mapped all of this experience to understand more about this phenomenology, because I think it's not only about one certain city, but this got a global issue. Because we came here wearing nice, talking nice, eating nice, but what about the real people who do the work physically on this kind of extreme conditions? So the idea of this proposal, it's really how we can see those people as a creative souls, not only just as builders. And we can transform the spaces that they live in into a more creativity and belonging spaces. So it will be from margins, because they usually live on the periphery or the margin of the city, to the map. So bring them back to the master scene of the city, from a machine to a space. And we started really to look to them, as I mentioned, as a creative souls, and also from campus to a creative campuses. So this is just the difference between the two images. I think it's the act of architecture. How really we as architects and urbanists, by this kind of humble interventions or very simple acts, that we can change and transform the life of humans to be better and live in a more happily life. So the transformation actually, because I always believe that the big moves, it can start with very simple steps. So we started really to think about what kind of interventions that we create. So we took one of the easy and simple typical layout to understand the challenges that have, and also it has, and to create a kind of opportunity. It's about studying the facade, how we can have some interventions inside the rooms, the courtyards in between, the open space, and to start to think about what kind of opportunities that we create, which is we came up with this idea of the toolkit, which it could be gradually being done by the laborers themselves. So we can have this facade intervention. It's about adding an extra skin of greenery and open spaces that they can meet and greet and have a social life together. We can have the vertical elements, and also we can have this kind of shading devices in the facade. And also utilizing the roof spaces as for collective landscape. So because most of them, they are farmers, because they came from a very knowledgeable of farming. So what if we use this kind of roofscapes as a productive landscape? And also, what about the empty spots that we can use like for communal spaces like mosques, praying areas, and also and spaces to meet and start to have a social life. So this is just showing in the early sketches how by this kind of simple acts and simple moves that we can create a life and a space. So create, instead of having this kind of monotonous building, and create it to something really happy, which is called courtyards of belonging. The space is already there. The material, it's already a lot of leftovers materials from the construction sites. How we can utilize it in a very simple manner to create something out of it. And also how we can transform this gradually from inside out, because I think it's not about really romanticizing the problem of some people else. It's not about just having a very beautiful images to look, but also about what is the feelings behind those. So also this is a kind of the inner facade that we have. We can connect the buildings together by this kind of steel bridges, and also create this idea of space. Using the facade, instead of, it's a shameful because they've been pushed out of the city, and the facade, it looks very, I would say, dull and monotony. How we can bring this life into it, so it became a very pleasant space, to the limit that we bring the people more closer to them. And I think by simple act of architecture, they build marvels, they build cities, and I think they can build very simple things to themselves if we have the desire and if we pay attention to this. As I mentioned, the rooftop, it's another opportunity for the productive landscape. So they can feel that they have their own gardens, they can occupy the sky, they can experience the city from above, and also converting this neglected rooftop spaces to a spaces of production and also for community living. And I think it's really important that to give this sense of feeling that they already have their own gardens rather than just living on a concrete buildings. So, and this is an image that how it could be. So, and we're always trying not to make the architecture very fancy, because it's something really to be very informal way. And using the open spaces like the pockets as an urban interventions, that again, it could be like a marketplace, Friday market, things that they can sell. So it's bringing another layer of economy to them beyond them working hours. And they feel that it's not only about doing construction, but also using them talent in a more effective way. By visualizing this, I think we can have a larger community that already give this sense of belonging and happiness to the people whom really deserve. I believe really that the architecture, as you mentioned, is not just about building good buildings, but it's also about the inclusion, about how make everyone in the city belong to the city. And I think the main ask here that we have to ask ourselves as architects, when architects listen, even the most silent spaces in our cities can speak, because we can't erase the distance anyway, it's already existing buildings, but I think by simple acts, we can bring the people a little closer to each other. Thank you so much.